Connect. No dirty looks, Ricky.
So Jamie, does that thing pop off easily?
I can make it pop off.
Well, maybe you have to pop up, but you're gonna have to together and then up and in because we're gonna go some really stuff that you
I can take it off.
Get right on.
Together. I gotta go.
That was dope.
Bing.
You good, baby?
I need to scoot this over.
Hold on, I gotta scoot this over. Pate is on. 10 people.
Yeah.
What are you trying to do?
Shit, we got more than Tyler does. And
Patty was the first one to say, wow, straight up 8 o'clock.
Come on. I absolutely can.
I didn't
Like a regular one or a little one or. Okay.
We're in stereo.
David.
Oh,
I
David,
had
you-
sound this time.
Wow, he can hear. Yay. We sound so stupid.
It's probably echoing to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Please lie.
Wait, hey, that's what happened all the time, dude.
Say hi, Emma.
There's like 10-foot walls
hi.
glue around each. You're like,
Hi.
Here.
it all dripped into
You can
the
go like
wheel
this.
and
Hi,
stuff.
guys.
I was like, what are
Hi,
you doing?
guys.
Hi. All right. What time is it? Okay.
Dun, dun, dun. Wow.
Boink, boink, boink. Say what?
Wrong camera.
We're on camera.
I'm moving.
All right. One thing I wanted to figure out. Hi, everybody.
Backing it up.
Cool. Okay.
I have to get them all on the screen.
You guys ready? Oh, there it is. Okay, hold on. We haven't actually officially started.
Say cheese.
Say cheese.
Cheese.
Cheddar.
Pepper
Welcome
jack.
everybody to episode 15 with 707 Streetcars. I am one of your hosts, as always, Daniel Judd. I live here in the 707. I got my co-host with me tonight. I got Ricky Bellotti. I got Randy Vieira. Let's get some shout-outs out of the way first. As always, want to give a shout-out to Troy Schroeder, Phantom. Phantom RC motors and batteries. If you don't have some of this stuff, go get some of this stuff. It's really, it's really caught on with, and it's kind of what I'm getting ready to say is kind of a careful bridge you need to go over, because we're promoting stuff, and I don't think I would promote stuff on our show unless it was some of the best stuff, and then when somebody does listen to you and they go and buy something, they're happy. So. Go check out Phantom RC products. I want to give a huge shout out to Paul Peterson of Shark RC Bodies. He's our team manager, and he wanted me to tell everybody tonight that can you let everybody know tonight the Cherry Bombs and Bosses have shipped this week, and Monday the Plum Crazy will ship, and Tuesday the Killer V's will ship. Just in case people are wondering, is that possible? Thank you, Dan. So that's what's going on, guys. Some of the bodies have shipped. They were the Cherry Bombs and the Mustang Bosses. Those have, I guess, is already shipped out. Maybe some of you were starting to get confirmations or whatever. And the Plum Crazy and Killer V's will start coming out of or into transit come the beginning of next week. So. Huge shout out to Shark Bodies. Everybody at this point kind of knows what we've done with Paul Peterson and Shark Bodies, and the stuff we got going, the bodies that are out. I think we're still waiting on the Monte Carlo, which I'm sure will be out as soon as some of this stuff can get caught up. We talked about in our last episode where Paul's Lexan. It was hard to get a hold of because he had a lot, and he put out 100.5 bodies or whatever, and then he kept getting an over amount of orders in, and he ran out of Lexan. Yeah, there you go. And he ran out of Lexan, and he ordered way more than he needed, so that he didn't run out next time. But it was getting that because of all the face masks that were being made. So the Lexan is in, half the bodies have shipped. If you haven't got your body yet, give it another couple days. Stuff should start coming in the mail. So check out Paul Peterson's the Mustang Boss, the Cherry Bomb Camaro, the Plum Crazy Dodge Challenger, the Killer V Cadillac CTS V.
Yes.
Eliminate P.
You said it right.
And coming soon to a 707 streetcar episode near you, the Monte Carlo. So, I want to give a huge shout out to Steve Negri of RCRI, RC Racing Innovations. If you want some of the coolest, latest, greatest stuff to go win some races with, and just take a lot of the guesswork out of what's going to work, because there's so many chassis coming in right now that it's hard for people to make up their minds, especially when they're new to this. It can be very confusing. So, what's up to Steve Negri? Milo Carvalho in Flashpacks. Let's give him a big shout out. If you don't have a Flashpack and you're either transferred to a new kind of speed control, or you bought a second backup, or you're just getting into this and you realize that you need a heavy hitter ESC with a cat pack, a good cat pack, go talk to Milo at Flashpacks. That's what we're running in our cars. As always, Jake Rosen at Jake's Performance Hobbies in Roanoke Park. He ships to the lower 48. You can reach him at 707-586-3375. And he's shipping stuff. I believe Jake had a chassis come out this week too, which was kind of cool. So maybe you guys want to go check that out. Oh, that's not the right time, Mom. Actually, here, you know what? Your favorite texture and say, I'm in my show. Jeez, she knows this. Mom, if you're watching, I love you, but please don't call. Message. Go to 707 Streetcars. She's part of it. So, anyway, I want to give another shout out to Robert Knighton of RCTags.com. Makes a lot of cool stuff. Graphic design on the computer. And the license plates and the vinyl that he can make.
There it goes.
What happened?
Oh no, it was trying to reconnect, and then it went to your
She
home
went to
screen.
the camera.
And then I tried to touch it. There you go. You're
Oh.
fine. You're good.
Everyone, what happened? What happened?
But did it?
No, you're fine.
So what does that Oh, let me turn this down. What does that translate to on the video? Is there a long pause there, or is it just a skip? Or...
Don't know.
Okay, well then they have about a minute and a half of me just sitting here going.
No, it wasn't that long. It was only.
30 seconds.
You're fine.
Okay, so a big shout out to Jamie as always, our camera lady here.
Yeah, for putting you on
She
pause.
puts up with our stuff and eats our pizza, and she puts up with us, and I really love the fact that she comes out and does this for us every Friday night. So thank you, Jamie.
Mm-hmm.
So we have been talking a little bit about Race Wars, about some stuff that's going to go on with it, and I want to get to that in a minute. First of all, I want to start the show by saying God bless America, right?
Hoorah.
Yeah, and we want to talk about, I think, the Pro Spec class and the entry fee deal.
I've been getting a lot of messages about the rules.
Okay.
What they need for tech.
Okay. So what you need for tech is an SCT or short course truck wheelbase vehicle. It has to have an actual geared transmission in it, so no direct drive. It has to have all four shocks in operating. They can be little tiny shocks, they can be big shocks, but they need to have springs and go up and down. It has to have all rubber tires. The rubber tires are not to be gooped with anything that leaves anything lasting on the tire that will come off in my hands in tech. If I can feel your tires once or twice and then feel it in my hands, then that's not just a really clean conditioned tire. That's something that had something on it. So really, guys, this is true no prep. Don't put any stuff like that on your tires, because I really don't want to have to tell anybody to go back to their pit. So and then you have to have a body that covers all four wheels and
Rubber tires.
What's that?
4 rubber tires.
4 rubber tires. And you have to have a body that covers all 4 wheels. It doesn't matter how you've modified the body. It doesn't matter if the body's cut out in the back, if you have holes drilled in the windows, or if you have holes drilled all over it. I saw one guy, I'm like, it's not for me, but if that's what you want to do, I bet it's light as hell. You look at it wrong and it might break, but
I think that was Mark Vine.
I don't know. It's probably light as hell and it lets the air come through. So whatever, canards, they're not going to hurt anybody. You want to run a big wing, you want to run a small wing, you want to run no wing. That's fine with us too. But so they're, as long as the body is, again, short course truck length.
Scale, not scale, don't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's scale or if it looks like a rocket ship, as long as it meets we run, to sum it up, if anybody wants to go to Sonoma County NPRC, we run the standardized rules for the street eliminator class that have existed since day one. And that also consists of a battery, a 2S battery, no bigger than 2S battery, that is charged no more than 8.44 volts. That will be teched at Race Wars, the voltage in your batteries. We will let them give it a blip or two to make it legal if they're a little over, but it will not go on the track until it's 844. So, other than that, the one other thing is no gyros. So, I mean, if there are anybody out there that are still using gyros, you guys got to start really learning how to drive your car, because I can smell a gyro from a mile away, and if I see one in a car, that car's not going to continue on to the next round. So that's pretty much all the rules. So all rubber tires. What about, do we want to take a 3-way vote right now about the wheels you were talking about? Or you just want to say that's what it is?
So
should we tell?
I don't think tell Randy. Okay. You remember in Vegas, a couple guys had those 3D printed wheels with the O-rings.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you feel?
Which I think are cool and they're light.
I don't know. I mean, it's not really a rubber wheel.
So in Vegas, they didn't really let them run with them because it wasn't a production wheel.
It's not a rubber tire.
Okay, so let's do this. As long as you're short course based and your rubber tires and everything meets NPRC rules, we don't care what size wheels and tires you are. But this cannot be a homemade wheel of any kind with an O-ring on it. At least, I don't care what size or how skinny or how wide or what color the front wheel is. It's got to be made by a manufacturer. So you could have a Hoosier tire and a Proline wheel. Or you could have a DE wheel and an off-road buggy front tire. I don't care. But it can't have any 3D printed. Are we all in agreement here? Is that cool with you, Randy?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's fair. So we just...
So then... The other thing I don't think we really touched on is electronics.
Okay.
XL5 and 12 turn, or stock DR10 electronics.
We talked about it a little bit, but we can go over that again. That's fine. Oh, you know what? I forgot. Hold on, everybody. Thank you. So here's what we've come up with.
Rick Jones just had a good point. Rules state rubber tire with a foam insert.
Well, there you go.
Okay. So,
that's his rules. Yeah, our rules state rubber tire foam insert.
Do our rules say that?
No.
Just rubber tires.
It's just
got
gotta
to be.
It's
not a tire.
It's got to be a molded tire that one of the major manufacturers, now all of a sudden tomorrow, between now and September, if you decide to buy a little backdoor tire off-road company and start molding your own tire, well, then that's a manufactured tire. You can run it. You know what I'm saying? But as far as gluing an O-ring together over something that weighs 2 ounces, that's just, it's not so much that. It's the fact that it's a 3D wheel, and we haven't done any testing to those wheels yet. And I'm afraid one's going to fold over trying to correct a car, and the guy's going to wreck his car, and he's going to have a horrible day, and I don't want that to happen.
Or take out the other guy's car.
Or take out the other. I don't know. So you can have short course truck wheels on the front of the thing with tires. You can have off-road knobbies. You can have mud paddles if you want. You can have buggy front tires. You can have the Traxxas. What's the funny car front wheels? The little ones. You can have those, but they got to be one of the manufacturer's tires. So. Other than that, electronics for that, I mean, everybody knows that it's an open class for electronics as long as you got a 2S. So you want to run an 8-scale motor, you want to run a, whatever you want, but you got to be on 2S. So, and no gyro. Other than that, anything goes with the electronics. So, as far as our out-of-towners, and if you know an out-of-towner or you think somebody didn't hear or they didn't see this part of the video, let them know is we have offered to provide some amenities for the people coming in from out of town, and we're going to do our best to critique to everybody. And what that's going to comprise of right now for the stuff we have other than what we need to run the race. This table is your standard 8 foot, or is it 6 foot? This is 6 foot. 6 foot by, I don't know, 2.5. No, because this is 2 foot, so this is 2.5 feet. Yeah. So it's a 6 foot by 2.5 feet table that folds in the middle. It's a card table. And we're going to have 6 of these. So I think if we break these up in halves, that means that 12 racers will have a pit and a generator right in the middle of them to run their electronics and stuff.
For the out-of-towners.
For the out-of-towners. So
707 guys, you're on your own.
yeah, if anybody's from California and drove an hour or whatever, you got time.
Bring your own gear.
These spots are strictly will be enforced for only people that flew in or drive 3 days to get here, or if there's anybody like that, that's what these
at least
somebody who didn't have you can't carry on a card table on an airplane, so we want to give that to the people that come to our race to make it fun for everybody. I want them to have the best equal chance as anybody else. I don't want the guy that lives down the street with all his stuff there and this and that, and then the guy was only able to, the other guy's only able to ship his car and 2 batteries in and a charger, and then that's it. I want him to feel like he's got a pit too. So I want to do that. I don't think we need to show them the layout of. Okay. Yeah. Okay. No. Tech will be enforced, guys. I'm trying to. Is Gabe watching? Does anybody know if Gabe's watching?
I don't know.
I haven't seen him yet.
I called Gabe this week. He was busy. Gabe, if you're watching, what I was calling you for is I want to confirm a yes or no whether or not this gentleman, Gabe Abramson, that is our race master here in the 707, is going to be able to attend September 5th or not. Because if he does, I would like to ask him if he would work tech with Ricky during the race. So, so I don't know. Chime in. Let me know if anybody's.
I haven't seen him yet.
Does anybody else got any questions about Race Wars?
CJ Matos is watching. What the hell? It's one of my buddies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any shout-outs you guys want to give out?
Yo, mama.
Shout out to Jason at Raw Speed Tires. Check them out. Definitely a good tire.
How about you, Randy?
Ty Teakin,
Ty?
always taking care of me.
What's up, Ty?
Stan Powell, I don't know if they'll sit flush, but you can put the full width SCT, Pro SCT arms on your DR10. Those are compatible. That's the same, off the same base car.
And Steve Villanueva from R1 Works. Super bright guy. Super good product. If you want an ESC that runs real good, go check out R1 Works Digital 3. I'd like to say hi to Ty. I don't know if he's watching or not, but
Gabe's on.
Gabe's on.
Gabe!
Gabe. Yes or no, Gabe? Did you hear the question and we're watching a minute ago that I
Hey,
asked you?
what the fuck is up? He said. Sorry, that's what he said.
He said WTF is up.
WTF is up, not.
Whatever.
So Gabe, I had called you the other night, and you were busy. No big deal. Gabe's a good friend of mine, and I wanted to. I might as well ask him right now, or call him on the phone here. Somebody give me the phone. I'm going to call him. I wanted to see if September 5th, what your schedule looked like, if you could show up on that Saturday and graciously help us put this event on to help raise some money for St. Jude's and let somebody go home a winner with some big bucks and eat some cheeseburgers with us and run tech with the tech table with Ricky. I can't think of other than these two guys. I can't think of anybody else. The first person I think of to help us, run a really fair race that is well governed and fun and works smoothly is Gabe Abramson, which is our
Do it.
So Gabe said, do it.
Well, first of all, I can like 90% guarantee that he's going to do it.
He
So,
says he's gonna help out.
and I get that, and that's all.
I'll help
it's
out
all
for
the time,
sure.
So,
Gabe
thank you,
says
Gabe.
he'll help out. All right, it's me and you, Gabe.
Awesome,
on tech.
Gabe. Tech, yeah. My murder tech hornets. No, we're going to be pretty lax, guys. There's some basic rules that you have to follow to race this race, and they're not anything different. If anything, they're the most undifferent rules that I've ever seen at any race, because there's little tweaks and stuff that other people do to the original rules, and we still run the original rules. So, I don't want that on here. What about Pro Spec? Okay, so again, Pro Spec class, guys, is an NPRC ruled car, so it still has the rubber tires. It still, have to use, manufacturer's tires. You still have a short course truck wheel-based vehicle and body for it that covers all 4 tires. Rubber tires only, no gyro, and a 2S battery. Did I say that already? But you have to run, instead of an unlimited speed control and motor class, it's just that. It's a Pro Spec class. So you have to either run one of 2 setups. You can run the stock DR10. Okay, you can change any pinion you want on it, but the electronics better be bone stock, or the radio and receiver change, and we will be checking for a gyro on that as well. Or a Traxxas slashed vehicle, which most of us run, with a 12-turn Titan and brushed speed control on 2S, and those are the competitors. Now, if you don't have a DR10 and you had a Traxxas car, and your buddy said, well, dude, I upgraded my stuff. You want to buy my DR10 stuff? And you bought his electronics? Well, you can run those in your slash car as long as it has one of those 2 power plants. And there's 2 reasons we want to let people run the DR10. Number one, I think they're kind of right about there, as far as evenness, and I think it'll be a good shootout with the class. And secondly, I know there's a huge swarm of guys that have them because it just came out and everybody's checking them out and buying them. So let's include that. I think it's a really good way to kick off the DR10. Instead of just being a DR10 class, because I've seen a lot of that, right? Have you seen that, Randy?
Yeah.
Where we're running Street Eliminator and a DR10 stock only class. I'm like, well, so only a DR10 can run that? What if I showed up that race with my Traxxas car?
Let's see if I can find the guy that was messaging me.
Here's another thing. As of right now, and we're still formulating kind of some tidbits.
It has to be an XL5.
What?
Oh, and asking if it's an XL5 or just stock ESC or can be changed.
I don't know. Go get Emma's car. Whatever's in Emma's car.
So
Yeah,
Sean
XL5.
Bautista,
Is that what it is?
Sean Bautista from Hawaii. Quick question: the Pro Spec class you guys added to Race Wars, what is the criteria for it? We've been running a class here for a while, and I like to make sure we're legal to run that one. We use them for brackets. We just base it on 12-turn motor because it's cheap. Trim down the chassis. Lock out the fronts. So no, it's got to have shocks.
Yeah, no lockouts, guys. No taking your shocks out and putting tie rods in. No taking your shock and putting a stock or a stiff piece of plastic on the shaft so it holds it up or holds it down or holds it sideways or whatever you got going on. The shock has to work. So
The other thing is aftermarket chassis will be permitted.
yeah, you can run aftermarket chassis as long as it's short course truck. It could be a Losi, it could be a Traxxas, it could be a Red Cap, it could be a whatever you want, as long as it's 2-wheel drive and has a transmission. It's sit on 4 tires. It's got a body that covers it.
Damn! Wait.
What?
That's not a.
No way.
That's not a ginger
Yes.
ale.
Who said
Called
that?
it.
Ray Myers.
Okay, so Ray, PM me with your address. I wanted a Dr. Pepper, and we weren't going to let anybody know this. But at the beginning, right before we started and went live, I said, you know what? I have one Dr. Pepper on episode 15. We're not going to say anything about it, but if somebody mentions it, I'm going to reach out to him and give him something, a sticker sheet, something. So, obviously, Ray Myers is paying attention, yes. So, Ray Myers, M-E-Y?
M-Y-E.
M-Y-E,
Or
Dr. Pepper.
mine's
That'd be funny.
You are the
Send him a Dr. Pepper.
you are the Dr. Pepper seer.
send him a Dr. Pepper.
He's talking about this. He's like, oh right, oh man, that's not cool, man. You just send me a soda.
With the stickers.
So hey, Ray Myers, you can look it out, brother. Yes, that is a Dr. Pepper. Look, I'll see. Oh, Oh, I do love Dr. Pepper.
And you use stock DR10 radio with gyro turned off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, the DR10 radio does not work with the gyro. So
Yes.
I will know if your gyro is on because your car is going to go anything but straight.
You're going to turn left, and it's going to go right 3 times, and then and then do a backflip, and then I don't know what it is. Maybe we don't know enough about them. And there's a setting on them, but no matter what we did with that receiver, we could turn it off, and we could drive the car just fine. But as soon as we used any application of that gyro, that thing was just, it was like a bucking Bronco that just got branded. I mean, it was, and I don't mean powerful wise, I mean crazy wise.
We all need a hat change.
So this is the change that I'm talking about with the Prospect class. You know, I don't know if anybody remembers or not, but I had, when we first started mentioning Race Wars, we had called it the kids or the beginner class or whatever. And I was like, you know what, I'll put up $100 for first. That's what it was. That's why I remembered 3 places. I was going to put up $100 for first place and $20 for second and $10 for third for the kids. But now that we've moved this into a Prospect class,
there's going to be adults racing.
There's going to be adults racing in it, and I'm, that
No
kind of
free
stuff.
money.
That kind of stuff's for the kids or for the charity or whatever if it comes out of my pocket. So, and don't think that Race Wars is going to be cheap on my expense, because it's not. It's going to take a little bit of money to get us there to hold the event that we want to hold for you guys. But anyway, so the change is the Prospect class. There will be a $20 entry fee. It's not $100 like the Street Eliminator class. It's $20, and then that's going to get split up just like the Street Eliminator class in 80 and 20 for first and second place. So, so first place, if there's 10 people, it's $200. If there's, and I think there'll be more than 10 applicants for that class. I know, and just to let you know, some of you grown-ups out there that plan on racing the Prospect class, you're going to be racing my 7-year-old daughter. And she's like one of the knights of the round table, bro. She's like, yo, Daddy, trust my pack. Look at her. Wanna go make a test hit? So, it's going to be a really fun class. I think that as long as it stays in the NPRC guidelines for the chassis and the car itself, and you have the correct electronics in it just for the speed control and motor to keep it at that level, I think it's going to be a really cool shootout. It's going to be really, really cool. So it'll be super fun. Again, me and Ricky are going to be hosting the event. He's going to be running tech. I'm going to be announcing. I'll be the man up there with the speaker, calling the races out. So, and Randy, I want Randy to be more part of it, but Randy actually has chosen to opt out of some of this and race. So, to be fair to the other racers, I mean, I can loan him something, but I can't, he's on his own, he's doing his own thing racing. So, and I'm sure he'll help out a little bit. I know he'll eat some cheeseburgers and hang out with us and stuff. But I know that he's also going to be a man who's mentally tuned into his machine and be like, everybody away, I have to, All right, I know I would be.
That's what she said.
But anyway, so we have a tech video for you tonight. There's a couple things I'm seeing, guys, here. First of all, if you haven't seen some of our older videos, or you just found out about us, or you've known about us and you just haven't had the time to watch, or whatever the reason is, I'm seeing some of the we're seeing another wave of guys starting to ask the same questions we've gone over. And if on top of everybody that I helped with their chassis, with their motors, with their batteries, with their bodies, everything that we all do all week long, on top of our jobs and our family life, it sometimes we just, and I said this episode 7, I'm just going to be referring people, if they ask me a question that's already been covered, back to the videos. That's why we put them on YouTube. Randy put them on YouTube for us. So so that you can go back and have just a punch bowl of just our videos and have them labeled, and he did a really good job at doing that. So if somebody, episode 9 was bodies or 10 was bodies, and I would say, hey, go ask the body, watch the body video. So where's he going with this? What's he talking about?
Covering stuff on shows and...
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Referring people.
I was already 2 thoughts ahead down this list. I got to stop reading this thing. So anyway, the thing that I'm seeing is a lot of the same questions come up. We're referring people back to those videos, and for the specific number of when I see one question, if there's 10 people asking questions, 7 of them have seen them, are asking questions that are for the videos that we can send them to go watch. There's, a big group of people that are asking a couple simple questions, and I don't want to say like I mean or anything like that to say this, but you guys got to figure gearing out for yourself. Gearing is not something that can be handed to you. Ask one of the guys at your track. Ask us. Message me if you haven't watched our gear ratio. I think we did do a gear ratio one not too long ago on how to figure out what gear ratio your car runs. When you start out and you're running an associated car or a car with a Proline or a car with a Traxxas, we've already said start with a big gear and go buy yourself some pinions. Support your local hobby shop. Go buy some pinions. They got them there. Always start low and work in increments. But as far as somebody contacting me, 3 or 4 times a day for what gear ratios they should run on I have this motor and these shocks, and I'm like, well, dude, every car is different. So it's not that we don't want to help you out with your gears, it's that we can. I could give you a ballpark, but that's not going to help you in the end in 2 different ways. Number one, what gear ratio I tell you for your car is not going to be the same for my car. So anything I do give you is only going to get you close. And the worst thing of all is if you don't do that, that's one crucial step to winning with one of these cars that if you don't take, you aren't going to be able to fully understand the car enough to win with it. Gearing is a huge portion of this. And it's very, very basic to figure out. It's very basic to understand. But what kind of gears or what gears should I run? The round ones. You got to go to the hobby shop. You got to buy some gears. Go start out by buying a set or put together an individual pinions and to make your own set and buy yourself a pinion tree from an 18 to a 25 and start low and go up a tooth at a time until it stops losing. It stops making power and it stops losing it. And that's all I have to say about that. Was there anything else?
The only thing I'm going to say is if you're running an 86 spur and you're running a 28 pinion on a Tekin, you're going to go boom. That's all I'm going to give you. Only advice.
A big gear doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be faster or it's going to be better. Just like, we tell people that we recommend you to buy a 4 or 5, okay? Now you can go buy whatever you want, but we've tested everything on the market, all the turns, all the manufacturers, and the turn that works the best for what we do and what we've accomplished is the 4.5. So don't hear that from one of our videos and think, well, I want to go faster. I'm going to go buy a 3-turn. Because that's not, it's just like the gears. It's not necessarily going to be better. So anybody that's having some of these problems, I encourage you to reach out to one of us. We'll guide you in answering the question you may have that we haven't covered in our video, or pointing you towards the video that might help you out in achieving this process. So I think I covered that pretty good. Our tech thing tonight that we've seen a lot of problem with is soldering. And we're going to go over let me see that. Ow!
Jesus!
Don't ever do that, guys. Don't ever grab a soldering iron. Don't do that. You'll pop the airway I have going through.
I'm trying to let some of the air out.
So first things first, give us just a second. Can we actually turn that off?
I don't think you heard me.
I didn't. What'd you say?
So I was just trying to let some of the air out.
Thanks. Okay. Oh, what am I thinking? That's why it's so dark in here.
What?
I need to go hook that up.
Look,
It's not dark in here.
Yeah, but I want it lighter for what we're going to be doing here.
that plug.
So see that plug? Plug it in. Please. Sorry. Now turn the power strip on, please.
Oh my God.
Oh.
There goes the sun.
Well, I want to see when it gets lighter.
This one's way
Oh, that's way behind.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a wall. That was cool. Okay, so let's start. Let's see. I went over that. Real quick recap. Pro Spec class is going to be a $20 buy-in, guys, and that's going to be the 100% of that goes to the pot. So I'm also going to be having 2 sets of trophies made for first, second, and third. So if you get a third place in the Eliminator round or the Pro Spec class and you didn't win something, you'll still go home with a trophy. So we want everybody to feel, like they came out and they gave it their best shot and they just had a blast and they can't wait to do it again with us. So, and that's going to be the kind of event that me and my best friends here are going to try and put on for you. So, without further ado,
Like Gabe said, Gabe right here. Invest in a good soldering iron. That's number 1.
Yeah.
Move your.
Roll out the blue carpet.
Okay, we're just gonna use the whole mat here because I don't want to mess up my nice one. So the first thing, yes, you got to start off. Hey, look, it's a monkey. You got to start off with a good soldering iron, guys. I suggest, back in the day, a lot of people go, oh, soldering iron, and they'll go to Radio Shack. And Radio Shack, if you spend a little bit of money, you could get, a decent one. I had one actually about 4 years ago. It was one that was just like this. It was Radio Shack, and then Radio Shack went into business, and there are a lot of cheesy soldering irons out there that say they're just soldering irons, but you got to look at the wattage and stuff. I forget, how many watts is this one? It's 100 watt? I think it's 100 watt.
Where's the box?
Right there. Track Power Digital. So they're
the same, right?
Yeah, I think so. These are what at Jake's? These are $100.
119 or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, this is like in a real race car shop. This is like your air compressor. Now with your air compressor, you might have to use it to bust lug nuts. You might have to put an impact on it and a 3/8 impact and use a long extension and get some hard to get bell housing bolts out. You might have to use an air chisel. You might have to use a grinder off here. Either way, your air compressor is a central hub for all your pneumatics. And what I mean by that transferring over into soldering iron is with an electric RC race car, your soldering iron is going to take care of any kind of installs. It's going to take care of any kind of repairs to wiring. It's going to enable you to transfer over plugs if you wanted to all on your own. But before we get to rewiring your speed control with bigger wire and stuff, which we're going to have to cover in another video. But I want to go over the basic fundamentals, the do's, the don'ts about soldering for some of the guys that just don't know how to solder, and that's okay because we've all been there. We were all non-solderers at one time. For me it was about 11 years old, but I started,
And you guys can save some money. You don't have to buy the digital one. I have the analog one. It's the exact same thing. It's without digital readout.
So what you're looking for is about 100 watt iron.
Just 60 watts.
Oh, that's all they are?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought they were 80 or 100.
No.
Okay, well this is a 60 watt iron, but what I know the temp, my soldering iron is the same one as this. It's up there, but it's all integrated into my stuff that's on the wall. So we use this one. I have a digital readout, and when I first got it, I didn't know about the extra key that goes into it that gets it from 750 degrees to 850. And 750, it did a very good job, but every now and then I was doing some 6S and 8S stuff with an Arma Limitless, and it just big wires. It just wasn't enough. And then Ricky actually showed me a trick on my own soldering iron that enabled me to get to 850. And once I got to 850, I don't even think you'd have to go that high, maybe even 825, 800. But that's about the heat range that you want to be going for when it comes to soldering. You want to be right around 800 degrees Fahrenheit. And these things, you guys, when I hook mine up, mine is hooked up to a light switch that's running a tag strip that's off, with an on and off switch on the soldering iron. Set up some fail safes. If you are careless with this will burn your house down. Okay, this is a very hot electrical piece of equipment, and it is hotter than if you don't never soldered before or you're just getting into it. It's don't touch it.
You'll bump your skin. It'll be brown.
Instantly. Boom! Instantaneously, it'll peel your skin off. I mean, it's that freaking hot. So, please be safe with it, guys. Now. There's one or two ways. There's another side other than it being hot that I want to get into real quick. I want to take care of safety. Safety first, guys. So the one thing you can do if you don't have a little fan, you do have something like this. Now, granted, just like with the fires a couple of years ago here in California, everybody's like, yeah, use the N95 mask. And I was sitting there as a fabricator for over 20 years going, you mean the dust mask? Because that stops particle, not vapor. And last I checked, smoke was vapor. And it's a gas. So and just like the soldering smoke that comes off of it, it's a gas. It's not a particle. So don't think that you can cheat what I'm about to show you by wearing a little particle mask. That's for catching sawdust when you're cutting wood or you're grinding metal and there's metal floating around in the air. It doesn't. Those are particles. So do not use an N95 mask. Do not use a little tiny one without the valve, the cheaper one. Minimally use something like this. Now this is a really cheap one.
That's printed N95 on it. They make them with like that style, just like the particle mask, but they say N95. They're thicker.
But it doesn't have a filtration system other than the actual mask, and that's only stopping particles. This is an actual
N95 is N95.
Oh, you mean the filter itself?
It itself is a filter.
Okay.
It's double layered. It's thick.
The reason why this is different is on one of the little paper particle masks, the N95 mask with a little valve on them, that is not a filter. All that is for is to help eliminate condensation in there when you exhale. And when you exhale, everybody's seen the one little paper mask that doesn't have anything on it. It's just a white mask, looks like a half a bowl in your face. Well, if you ever worn one of those, you notice you start perspiring in them, and it gets, I get even drippy off my mustache and stuff.
So should I wear this one?
Yeah,
No,
that's not a good one.
that will not help you. What this is, and you're actually breathing through the particle thing, because that's the important part, is on your breath in, what are you breathing through? Well, if you don't have a rubber seal around your face, and technically, to make this seal properly, I should have no facial hair. So, because this is going to be open through here with my hair. What this does is this seals completely 100 or 360 degrees around. And when you breathe through the filter itself, that's where the vapor is getting caught, or the gas, I should say, is getting caught, is in the filter. And just like those other N95 masks with the little valve in them, I have one in this for exhaling, so that I don't get condensation in the rubber, because these get even more condensation. They fill up with sweat.
So
they're disgusting when you're done
as
using
soon as you put it on,
okay.
you can feel it.
So if you don't want to wear something like this, there's another thing you can do, which for the sake of the show, I'm going to use tonight, and that is a fan. So you don't want a fan like a big house fan that's going to be going whoa on you, because that's just it could cool down the soldering iron. You just need a little bit of draft.
Just a breeze.
Let's
Just don't turn the heater on.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, you're good. Crank it, baby.
It's all the same.
Okay, that's it. But you know what it's going to do? It's going to blow it right towards you.
Do you feel the wind in
Now,
your
here's
hair?
the thing.
Just don't breathe it
all the
Ricky.
time.
I'm a
Here, just go that way.
34 time state certified welder, and welding smoke, whether it's Heliarc or it's a TIG welder or an old stick welder or a plasma arc or a plasma welder, the smoke and the vapor and that comes off of welding can cause 11 different kind of carcinogenic diseases, including full respiratory shutdown. So this isn't welding smoke, but the smoke we're actually making our brazed joint with something that is 40% tin and 60% lead. And so if you were to breathe a bunch of this and you have sensitive lungs or anything like that, I wouldn't want anybody to go buy a soldering iron and try and solder and me not say anything about the smoke and you guys breathe some of it and you get sick. So remember, you don't want to breathe this smoke. It's not good for you.
Especially with the crap that's inside the solder.
So let's bring that whole plate full of stuff over there. Now, back in the day when I was a kid growing up, I didn't have my own soldering iron. My stepdad had one of the big Craftsman 100-watt guns, and for big joints and stuff, once you learn how to get to solder better, those will work. For fine stuff, you need what we call a pencil tip iron. So this pencil tip iron right here is this. What's that?
Chisel tip.
Is it a chisel tip? Oh, it is. Where's the pencil tip? Okay. So here's what they mean. This is a pencil tip right here, and it's just that. It's the shape of a pencil. It's completely round, and it's coned off to a point. Okay. A chisel tip is basically a pencil tip, but with just that. Instead of a complete cylindrical cone that comes out to a perfect cylindrical point, it actually is a cylindrical cone that ends out into a flat chisel, and this is the one.
Surface area.
Or more surface area. Usually the flats of the chisel is usually where I'll feed solder into, because it seems to be the sweet spot for the soldering iron. It's the same one I use on mine. So I have this if I was to get really, really intricate, like on a board or something like that, which I used to do, but I just I just send speed controls in and get them fixed. So let's go ahead and let me start with the license plate. You can keep that. That's going to be part of the speed control. Oh, I'm sorry. So, this I actually dropped the other day.
Uh-oh.
Mine's all broken.
I cannot find the end. Would you swipe it with the soldering iron? So you get like a half wrap and it breaks off. I've done that before. Didn't break anything. Thank you. I'm getting older. It's been a really long week for all of us. It was very hot here, and I am just, my tank is on empty, guys, and my eyes, well, I'm getting older, and they start getting fuzzy about this time of night.
She's hot.
She's hot. Okay,
Yeah,
so
she's
as you
getting
can
hot.
see, this thing is building temperature right now.
rapidly.
So that's what we mean by a digital one. It has a digital reader of how hot your setting is. So she's going to keep climbing. So what is this one max out at 852?
850.
Okay. She's going to keep going until she's at 850. So, Randy, explain to me, actually, can you, right up to the left of my soldering iron, right on the very corner of the shelf, is a razor blade. Okay, thank you. What's that for?
It was like
Sean
burning
says
hair.
$5 Dan messes up.
You know what? Here, how about this? How about
Are you really?
here.
Don't burn your
Hold on,
head, though.
I'll put 50 on it.
Oh, I thought you were going to take your shirt off. Oh, no, please don't.
No.
Can we not?
Can we not?
Oh, I will. I will.
I had my hand in front.
But the one thing I can't do, not looking, is cut the rubber off. So let's not even get to this yet. So for stripping wires, I use a razor blade. And as you can see, this wire, this red one right here, was just cut straight. And I'm using a license plate because if I solder on it and stuff, I don't have to worry about burning this. I suggest you solder over something hard. You know, your kitchen table, your mom's countertop.
Otherwise, your mat comes full of holes.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So what I'll do is I'm gonna put my razor blade back on the wire as far as I want to expose it, okay? And I'm just gonna slightly sink it into the rubber, okay? And then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to roll it while holding a little bit of downward pressure. And what I've done is I've stripped that wire perfectly, okay? So Randy, explain to the camera what tinning is. Now, tinning, I didn't say tanning.
Oh, man.
Tanning's
We're
when you
not-
get in that long white booth and you put some,
There you go.
some
No,
shit
you can
on
also stand outside
Yeah.
or lay outside.
I'm talking about tinning.
Tinning. You want to tin your wire. You want to tin. You're basically putting you're heating up the wire, putting a small amount of solder into the wire, so the solder, when you go to solder it to your joint, will stick.
Okay, now what do you do to the joint?
You tin it as well.
You tin it as well. Now, when you have solder in the wire and you have solder in the tab, what is the final outcome? A good solder joint, right?
Solder joint.
That's
You get
right.
a nice clean, not always clean, but at least a nice solid joint.
Okay, so I wouldn't want to have
You're gonna melt metal to metal.
a motor, brand new tab on a motor. This is an old motor. You know, a tab is a tab, so whether it's a new brushless motor or whatever. I wouldn't want to hold the wire bare there and hold the soldering there and just get it all hot. And you'll overheat stuff. You guys got to really, really remember how much heat you're putting in this stuff. It will damage a motor if you get it too hot. It will definitely damage a speed control if you get it too hot. So the first thing I'm going to do
Yeah.
is this.
I've had a lot of people ask me about desoldering the stock
Oh,
wires
is it
off
dirty?
the board.
So the first thing I'm going to do,
I think that tip is dirty.
so I was cleaning that, and I'm just going to feed a little solder in there, bubble it up. Cool. As you can see, that tab has a little fresh amount of solder that's already molded to the tab itself. So we'll set that aside. And this is another tool that I get. Now this is you know, a solderer's hand, or I call it the magnified robot because it kind of looks like a robot, you know. But this is about 10 or 12 bucks, and these things come in handy when you're in your garage late at night. You don't have a buddy to go, Randy or Ricky, come here, grab the needle nose and hold this for me.
You can pick one of those up at Harbor Freight as
You
well.
can pick one up at Harbor Freight. Hey, wait a minute. Before I start giving shouts out to Harbor Freight, I want some free shirts. So what I'm going to do here, too, you know, can I get a light over here? That's the problem, is I can't see. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get this hot. I'm going to feed a little bit in. And the solder just getting on one side as I feed a little bit in is heating it up faster. And this is going to get to the point to where I can just put solder in. Now what I'm doing is every time I'm done doing a joint, you don't want a flux build up and it gets black and burnt and crusty, and you always want to keep a tight tip on whatever, because the tips always come off on soldering irons no matter what kind you
From
have.
heat.
But from heat expansion, and you always want to tighten it before you really start soldering. I should have showed you that earlier, but I already checked it by myself and it was fine. But you want to keep your tip clean. So that's what this is what we use the sponge for. This is just a sponge and it's wet, and because it's wet, it doesn't melt. And all I'm doing is cleaning the tip, Okay, so now it's clean again. Now this is, I want to check and make sure I got, nope, see I didn't. I only got solder on one side of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to expose the one side that didn't get any solder on it.
Rosin core or using flux?
No flux, rosin core.
Rosin core.
Rosin core's for electronics.
Flux is for
plumbing.
plumbers and old guys with running boards in their truck. Okay, so I'm going to clean it again. Now as you can see, I have made a 365 degree of solder path around that, and it is integrated and soldered into the wire already with a little bit of, see how it's a little rounded on this side? It's a little bit excess. Well, what that's going to do is when I heat it up, the excess is going to go boom into the motor tab, and that's what I want. So I'm going to, I can even do this and get even fancier. No, that didn't hold, did it?
Put your
Put your
magnifying
magnifying
glass up.
glass up.
Let's see what it fell.
Now the camera zoomed in real good. LOL, Dan has running boards.
No, I don't. Hey, well,
He's trying to solder.
I'm trying to solder here. You're harsh and my mellow. Boom. I'll hold it. Take that away. Get a soldering iron. Let it sit for a couple minutes. You can blow on it. And what that'll do is just kind of help cool it. As you can see, can you see through there?
Kind of. Oh, yeah.
Now, when I'm done with a soldering joint, doesn't matter if it's on a connector or whatever, I always, even when I'm earlier in the day when I can see, because I have really good vision when I'm not tired. I have 18/16 vision. I have fighter pilot vision. I have really, really good eyes. I can see a tick on a dog's sack from 2,000 yards away. Okay? But when I get tired, well, even when I'm not tired, I always want to inspect my solder joints. So I want to get in there with a magnifying glass, and I go, wow, I can really see that thing is just totally bonded. That is not coming off. So you'll either break the tab. This soldering joint here specifically will either break the tab off the motor or rip the wire, and that kind of force is like, that's if you hit a curve backward at 60 miles an hour and rip your Proline tranny in half. So that's when those kind of forces happen inside. So that's pretty much as easy as that is. So again, it's just really easy. You want to just open this up like this.
Wow, Dan.
I know, that was just, what the?
Whatever, dude.
We know what Dan does with his free time. He takes a bowl on dog's ball sacks.
Yeah, through my rifle scope. Same thing, really easy. I'm just gonna. You guys are killing me, man.
You started it.
Okay, so same thing. I'm gonna tin my soldering iron, and that makes it just a couple degrees hotter. I'm going to hold it there, and I'm going to feed the solder into right in the middle where the soldering is touching the wire. And now the wire is totally hot. I can feed the solder into the wire itself, just directly in. Okay?
Ooh.
So, let's unsolder this.
So is yours.
Nope, other side.
Or if you have problems unsoldering a joint, you can always use a little bit of fresh solder on there. It'll heat it right up.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Sometimes, so that's a good point. Sometimes if your soldering iron kind of melts a little corner of it, and it's really not just once it gets hot enough going boom and melting it like you want it to pull something off. You can actually introduce a little bit of fresh solder to it, and it will actually raise it a couple degrees, or mix with that new solder, or do something metallurgically that will allow you to instantaneously melt that solder. So. So we used to, on the Hobby Wings, with the boards, we couldn't put the cap pack right on the board. We had to move it up the wire a little bit. A lot of people have asked me how I do that. Well, here's how I do it. So what I do is same thing, but I do it, let's say I'm going to make a split 1/2 inch wide right in the middle of that wire. So I'm going to go around that, just like I normally do. Then I'm going to go the distance I want to strip it. Okay, and I go all the way around. Then I'm going to take the solder, or the razor blade, and I'm going to cut it, and then I'm going to open it up like a freaking book. Same thing. I can take this, And I always put a lot more solder than I think I'm going to need out and then wrap it because it's easier to feed it rather than continually going, God damn it, gosh darn it, and pulling the solder out. Same thing. I'm going to tin this. Watch this. See how it's nice and dry right there? But it's hot. I put a little bit on there. Believe it or not, I've just upped the degrees a little bit. It's ready to solder. So now I'm going to get a little bit right in between the two. I'm going to move the soldering iron around to kind of spread the heat around and say, hey guys, I'm here, I'm coming through. And look at that, solder's really, really melting into that wire now. And now you have a tin. Now you could take your cap pack wire and boom. Hold on a second. See how good of a joint that is? Now granted, I still have exposed wire over here on the backside with no solder, and because there's no wire, no looming around the stainless braid anymore, I wouldn't want to leave that like that, because after bending it, it'll get frayed, and next thing you know, you'll have a weak point and more resistance in the wire. So before I soldered this wire to this one, what I did on the face of the red one that I split open, I would do slowly all the way around so it was completely covered in solder and it was a hard opening. The solder would hold the braided stainless wire in place because the rubber wasn't there anymore. So, and that's how I would put a cap pack on a Hobby Wing speed control. So, another thing is small wires. Randy, you want to open? There's a bag there. Find me some small wires, something that's. Yeah, we can do that. So what I'll do
Or you can have a.
is I'll take these and strip them. Maybe the black one a little bit more. Okay. And you can see how it's frayed and it's open. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to twist that really, really hard. So this is like if you had a broken servo wire.
There you go.
A little one.
Servo wire.
Yeah.
Well, I'm already into this one, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to X these guys so they have the same amount of wire sticking out on the top and the bottom, the left and the right, and then I'm going to pinch them together with my fingers. Then I'm going to take the one on the right side, because I'm right-handed, I'm going to fold it over, then I'm going to go to the left, I'm going to fold it the opposite way, and the opposite way, and then once they get, oh, well, it didn't work, did it? And I'm going to roll them. And as you can see, can you zoom in there and see that? Or point the light in it?
Sort of.
Thanks.
Well, no, I'm just saying. I think
So
there you
now
go.
as you can see, they're wrapped around like two hands holding on to each other, okay?
Shaking
And
hands.
it's nice and straight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here with my soldering iron, and I'm going to blob a little bit so there's a drop on the tip, and I'm going to blob that right on the wire. I'm going to feed a little bit in, and then I'm going to move it around a little bit. Boom. Let it cool. That is strong. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, it broke the wire, so you can see it broke back where I didn't have solder on it. Again, that's why we solder everything that's exposed. Now, here's another thing, too. Whenever you have a chance to cover something with shrink wrap, please do.
Somebody asked, can you plug that into LiPo and show us your soldering
Get
skill?
one.
Too bad we didn't have those lifos.
Okay, so you'd cut a piece off of that, maybe 3/4 of an inch long. You'd slip it over that, and you'd light it up with a lighter or your heat gun. And yeah, that's all you need about that. Hold on a minute. Show you guys.
What are you doing?
No, here we go.
All right. Well,
Dun, dun, dun.
the headless soldering.
Hey, Sean Burr, you watching? I got 10 on this one.
Hold on. Wait, I can't get you and headlessness and... Wait, let's go over here. Kids, don't try this at home.
Okay, well, someone's got to tin the iron for me though, because I can't do that. I can't see the.
All right.
Yeah, Randy, be helpful.
I can't see anything.
call the fire department.
Everything on the damn soldering iron wire.
Do I?
Dun, dun, dun.
Randy, you know how to solder?
Yep.
Randy knows how to do everything.
I would put the iron back in the thing so he doesn't reach up and grab the tip.
Yeah, you
Oh,
just-
wait, I might win $10. Hold on, hold it.
No, not there.
No! Daddy!
There you go. Nope, turn it. Turn it.
He's.
pull it
I
back.
thought he wasn't supposed to have any help.
No help, no help.
Well, I'm getting so we can at least get the solder on the tip.
No help.
Just the tip.
I smell plastic burning.
I don't know what I'm touching.
All right, like plastic burning.
Did I do it? No way! Hold on, is it a good joint though?
Oh my gosh, he's got his magnifying glass out. Here.
Look at that. Here, I want somebody to verify that that would not
Verify.
rip
That
Well, that is
sounds
actually-
good.
See, it's soldered all the way around.
off. Blindfolded, baby.
I can
Okay, enough with the fun and games.
Wow. You just won $10.
I did?
No, I don't
Ricky
know.
did.
Oh, Ricky did. Never mind.
Did you really? Did someone take your bet?
I put $10 on you.
Did you?
Like,
Sean said he'd fuck it up.
Tell Sean lives down the road. Look.
oh!
Okay, but that was pretty good.
Yeah. It was on
Good five yanks on that sucker before it let go.
Yeah.
for blue.
It's down there.
I smell
Down
flesh.
I should have left it on a couple more seconds, but I felt it getting hot. I was like, oh, okay, but I don't know where the pliers are because I can't see.
Daddy.
Huh.
Wait,
Can you get it for me? Huh? Randy will get it.
Oh.
Is there any questions about soldering, guys? Let's flip this off. Oh, wait, hold on. Clean it before you put it away.
I usually wipe it as it starts getting colder, so it doesn't just turn
So it doesn't, doesn't
turn
tarnish on
black. Now my shit's gonna go home smelling like freaking burnt plastic.
It's better than flesh.
I got it
Are
off
you
there.
sniffing it?
Same thing, guys. When this wire was together, remember, if this side is, say, on a servo plug, and this side is to the servo, well, if you solder it, this is one thing that beginners forget all the time. Every now and then, I think I did it about 6 months ago, and I was like, oh man, and I had to unsolder and redo it. But before you solder these two together, you always want to take your
Put some shrink wrap
Your
on the
shrink wrap,
wire.
obviously smaller shrink wrap. They make different size shrink wraps, guys. There's all kinds of different kind of shrink wraps, okay? And you want to slide, let's just say this is the shrink wrap, okay? You want to slide your shrink wrap not only on, but far enough away from the joint that you're not going to shrink it when it's back here. So you got your shrink wrap on, this is your plug, this is your servo, so you can't slide it on afterward. Do your twist, roll it like this. That's how you get it nice and perfectly straight. Carefully lay it down, dip it with solder, and then when you're all done, you can pull the heat shrink over, light it up, and boom, you got a nice repaired servo wire or antenna wire.
Got Gabe mention clean the tip with a wet sponge.
We did.
Yeah, we did. This sponge is wet.
Let me squeeze it over your head.
No.
No.
That's super.
That's
dirty.
SpongeBob. You should see when
Whoa, Patrick!
You should see when SpongeBob gets dehydrated. He's about
He
the
shrivels
size
up.
of that.
Yeah.
He shrivels up. It goes right. I don't know how it shrinks, but
David Hasselhoff!
My almost 4-year-old that sits out in the garage sometimes when I'm working
My
on
favorite
RC
part
cars calls that SpongeBob.
Of any kid's movie is when SpongeBob and Patrick get to ride Hasselhoff all the way back to Bikini
Yeah.
Bottom. That's awesome for me. So,
I'm Squidward. You stack dimes with your
Oh
solder.
my gosh, that's good, dude.
I can stack dimes with anything.
SpongeBob.
Oh, wait, do that again?
So,
No, come on.
Yeah.
My kid makes me impersonate Squidward.
Okay, do it.
SpongeBob, getting tired here.
Oh my god, Squidward!
I
you,
Krabby Patties.
Oh my gosh. That was good.
okay, so I have an R1 Works here, brand new Digital 3. This is a brand new speed control, and much like the Hobby Wing, before I ever run it, I will update some, at least the input wires to the battery. There's a couple things I do. First of all, when you solder this is something a little bigger and heavier than something like this will hold. And actually, what I use when I do a speed control is I use a quick clamp. And how I do that is I put it in whatever position I want, and I just barely hold it. And as you can see, that thing's sitting there pretty good. So I can do all my soldering and stuff, and it's holding the speed control. Now, with a high-performance piece of electronic equipment like this, you want to make sure that you keep this thing cool. So you don't add a bunch of heat to it, let it get hot, then go to the next wire, let it get hot. You gotta cool this thing. I actually use my freezer. What I'll do is I'll put this in there for 30 seconds or so and let the case get a chill, and that case gets a chill into the board, and then I'll come out and I'll actually already have it in the clamp in the freezer, and then I'll come out and I'll do one soldering joint. And then when by then it's pretty warm, and I'll go set it back in the freezer for a couple seconds, and then get it back out and do the next one. So I try and keep the speed control as cool as possible. Sometimes if I'm just finishing a soldering joint and I think I've gotten it a little bit too warm, I'll actually take my soldering sponge and touch it to it, and just kind of get that first outer layer of solder to start to instantaneously set and solidify. So we'll cover soldering one of these speed controls up in a later video. I just wanted to show you guys. Is there any other little things I wanted to show over there? No. Nope. That's pretty much it. Is there any questions, anybody, about the soldering tips and tricks and do's and don'ts?
Don't burn yourself.
Yeah, you guys. If you guys are starting out soldering and you're not getting a joint that's melting solder, kind of like some of the stuff we've shown here today. Then possibilities are the tip on your soldering iron is loose or dirty, or you just plain and simply have a soldering iron that's not achieving the temperature that you need to achieve to finish this mission here.
Cold fire joint is not good.
I've seen some
That's
soldering.
exactly why after 5 or 6 tugs this fell off. Was because I just didn't get it. Another 2 seconds on there and it would have never come off. But it was a cold solder joint. That's what cold solder joints do.
Remember, like electronics, if that joint's not soldered properly, it could run hot.
It will. It'll also cause resistance. If you don't have a good soldering joint, a good soldering joint is everything. You're never going. It doesn't matter what your tune or your suspension or whatever's working good. If you have a bad soldering joint, it sooner or later will rear its ugly face in the form of excessive heat, lack of performance. And or damage to an electrical piece of equipment, excessive heat. It'll do all kinds of stuff if you don't have a good soldering joint.
I do some soldering for some of the guys, like your brother, and I'll always hand it to them. I know my joints are good, but I say, here, you make sure it's good enough for you.
And here's another thing: the more you practice with this, you guys, and the better you get at it. Soldering is like welding or building your first engine. Once you've done that, you always feel more confident to do more stuff. You can do stained glass windows with this.
I soldered copper pipe with mine.
That's this right here. This right here is exactly how I was like, okay, well, if I need to get it hotter and a soldering iron won't work, and I have to do like a plumbing pipe, like copper pipe, well, I'll just get one of the torches, and it's still soldering.
Yeah.
It's a form of braze welding. And the difference between welding and braze welding is welding penetrates into the material, and it becomes all one material, and that's why welds are so strong. A braze or a solder joint is just something that will stick to both sides and make the electrical connection or the structural connection, but not actually have penetrated into either side of the components that you are soldering. Huh?
Just holds it.
It just holds it there. Yeah. So, did I? Yeah, I did. Okay. So, is there any questions about race wars, about soldering, about the kind of cupcakes we were eating?
There's cupcakes?
Yeah.
Right there.
Ricky was eating one.
Oh.
They're unicorn cupcakes.
They're unicorn cupcakes, and they have sprinkles on top that make it crunchy when you eat it.
They were. Oh.
Yeah, I'll have another one actually.
Yeah. We bought them for Emma.
Thank you for sharing, Emma.
When they were all going to come out? You can have the rest.
I don't want one of these.
There's 8 in there, and now there's like 3 here.
One good cupcake.
Wait. 1, 2,
So,
3.
race wars in September. It's gonna be
Yeah,
awesome.
buddy.
I'm expecting there to be anywhere from 50 to 80 people there. I don't think that we'll see 50 as far as the low side. I think we'll have more than that. I can't think of anybody that comes to our list days races that's not going to be at this. And you got 10 guys in the top 10, And then you usually have 25 or 30 guys competing. So
Gabe wants cupcake.
Here you go,
that's
Gabe.
gonna be a little hard. You want me to
Say
save it
goodbye,
for
Gabe.
you?
Put it in the camera.
Woo! Open wide.
It's so good.
Oh my god.
Hostess unicorn cup.
I wish you guys had Taste Division.
Taste Division. Taste Division 5000.
Robert Knighton
Did you
will be
just
there.
Down that whole thing.
Shut up.
What cupcake?
Look away!
We need the picture with the unicorns on it again.
Look away!
Look away! There's nothing to see here.
Dan, you should have let me record you on that picture.
I'm gonna have diabetes by the end of the show.
Did you hear him?
What?
We should have recorded you with my picture with them. That
Dude,
would have gone perfect with that cupcake.
I think I get 2 of those cupcakes in my mouth at once, but I'm not doing it.
Do it.
No, see, goddamn it, I do.
Come
I
on! You have to.
brought it up. If I brought it up,
Come
no.
on. It's like
No
saying Fluffy Bunny
you
or
need to
whatever.
shut your little instigating mouth up, okay? What a shit disturber. I mean,
Daddy,
Ooh,
if we did
watch
that,
your
there would
mouth.
only be 1 left. So there's 3 now.
We can go buy more.
So back off, sucker.
no, they are Emma's. I can't do that.
Next
It
show.
would be cool to see, though.
Next
Look,
show.
It's a sprinkled diamond.
So anyway, I hope that some of the soldering tips help some people tonight.
Chubby bunny.
Mm-hmm.
Chubby bunny.
Yes.
If you take marshmallows, you put in your mouth, say chubby bunny.
Randy's a
Oh,
champion.
yeah.
Randy's a champion.
Really?
Randy's a flipping champion.
It's,
Oh my
uh,
gosh, he can get like what, like 40 in your mouth?
Randy here's also won 3 all-you-can-eat championships in a row, so he's got that going.
Dude, after I won Vegas, we were staying, what hotel is that we were at?
MGM.
MGM.
I wasn't, but you were.
And we went to the buffet. I'm like, dude, we're celebrating tonight.
The
$4
buffet.
grand.
The Jimmy Buffett.
We went into that buffet, man. My plate was like this big. I got halfway through it, and I was like, ooh.
Wait, how big was it?
Like,
That big.
That
dude,
big?
I just piled everything on. I was like,
That's how I go to the buffet even when I don't have that kind of money.
but
It's the
we go to a
buffet.
buffet to celebrate, not some fancy ass steakhouse.
Yeah.
dinner, you know, it was
Hey,
like,
but you did celebrate by getting a tattoo too.
You know, the buffets in Vegas are good, though. That's usually better than I eat on a daily basis.
hopefully, people are learning from our videos and they have what it takes to maybe strip me.
You know
of
what?
that.
I have. Where's my phone?
Because I got plenty of room right here to
Hey,
add
wait.
2021.
Dun, dun.
I got plenty of room to add 20. I just $2,000 deposit on tattoo work. So plenty of room for 2021. And 2 and 3 and 4.
Just a decade.
You know what? That was just my day. Next one might. You never know.
That was
Gabe, yes, you
that
can call
first
in with
race,
an
though.
honest
Oh my
race
god,
question.
That first race in
it was scary. We
That
all
woke me up.
clenched.
I've had them like she'll do that to you.
It just. I'm like, oh shit!
The ghost, I'm telling you, I've told this to Ricky. Ricky didn't believe me, and then he ended up taking it seriously, and he used it at Vegas, and it just, the car, there's something about it. It's got a spirit that lives in it, dude, and you have to talk to her, and you have to treat her just right, and she don't like certain stuff. And some days when you go to a race and you put your car down for that first round and you're being too cocky, she will put you in your place.
Oh,
And
And
she's
let
a
you know-
girl.
and
Look
let,
at
and
that.
let you know that that you know you need to pay attention to what you're
No
doing.
guy has a car named a guy name.
Hey, you know what? It's
Some-
the 20th century.
hey,
Just saying. That's
Hey.
not a,
Wait,
that's not,
I know,
Gang-
it's-
gunslinger.
doesn't mean
gunslinger.
it's a guy.
Gunslinger?
Girls are gunslingers too. Haven't you seen The Quick and the Dead?
Yeah, I have. Hella hot. Okay, so anyway, this was this
God,
gentleman's
God.
name. This gentleman's name is Wes Price, and Wes Price, I've got probably 6 or 7 of these this week. Just random people from all over, not the country but the world.
Oh, here we go.
Messaging me. He sends me a picture of his car, and he says she's finally hooking and going perfectly straight. I appreciate your help, pics, and videos that you guys do. You know your stuff. Basically, followed the video is all I did. So this guy was just reaching out just to let me know. He didn't have a question for me. He was just letting me know that, man, I've watched your videos. That's basically, I followed it to a T, and the car freaking works. Thank you so much. So our videos are really helping people. I think there's just...
The scanner's going to.
Scanners. Morse code. He's sending some code. The police are going to show up here.
No, that's not a police.
I had the scanner on early because there was a fire a couple miles up the road, and And
I was
PD,
like, what?
Petaluma Police Department's been pretty quiet
Hey,
tonight. So
is that like your daughter being half healthy, half sugary, or
Got a
what?
carrot in
Got
a cup holder
and
and-
a cupcake?
that's exactly what that is. You take that powdered sugar right there, and you lick that carrot and dip it in there.
That'd actually
You got
probably be
yourself
really
a sugar
good.
carrot.
Yeah.
Hey, you say yeah?
No, in here. In there.
Yeah.
You dip it in the blue
Emma,
stuff.
Emma, for Christ's sake, kid.
Emma.
Wow.
Oh, put in the sour powder?
Yeah.
So, what else is going on in here?
Gabe said he called in with an honest race question, but he hasn't called in.
Yeah, you know what, Gabe?
You can click the little green button, add into the.
Yeah, I could add.
Apparently,
Yeah, let's try it.
You
Gabe,
send
are you
request
still
to-
on here?
to join into the live
Is
stream.
Gabe still on?
I want to put him on
Send a
here.
request to join into the live stream, Gabe. The little green.
Doohickey.
I want to give a shout out to Gabe.
Or sign out and sign back in.
Is Gabe listening?
I don't know. We
Yeah,
don't
do
know.
it.
Gabe.
What are you saying about yourself?
You run away.
I said Gabe, actually.
No B.
No, I didn't hear that.
There was a B. Gabe, I gotta call it in. Too much.
Yeah, no, tell Gabe, call my phone.
Call.
You got my phone number? I'll put
Calling
you on.
in now.
Do you want to be on
He's-
speakerphone though? Oh,
Yes,
here it
he
is.
does. FaceTime him.
Hello, Gabe.
Put him on speaker.
Hey, you want me to put you on speakerphone?
Here.
Okay, hold on. Okay, cool. Hold on.
Should add it into the live.
Hold on. Shh. All right, Gabe, you're on speakerphone. Go ahead.
Alright. It's delayed on my screen, so it's a little bit slow. I'm drunk.
Okay.
I'm drunk on Friday.
Hi, drunk. I'm Randy.
So, as race master, I've gotten a few calls from people or messages about a certain thing that's been happening in our races. And they want to 86 the test launches that people are doing.
I think that you're bringing up a perfectly good point, and I've thought about that too. A real car will go down the strip quite a ways if they do a big burnout because they're trying to get the tires hot. We do that at the line. Technically, there is no reason to do that other than the last second thing that will either win or lose a race for you, and that's your car launching funny. So that's why the guys are doing it. They're checking their wheelie bar tweak one last time. They're sending the car for 5 or 10 feet to make sure it digs and hooks. And I personally think we should do away with it for Race Wars.
Yeah, okay, and so I'm thinking that people are letting me know they want to do away with it for a race day.
Ooh.
Well, ultimately, Gabe, that's going to be your decision. The top 10 list.
To be honest, that's why I'm calling in because I'm in a loss here because I have noticed that guys are running. They're doing half passes. These
Yeah,
guys are running
some guys are
halfway
taking
down the
advantage of
fucking
it.
track.
So what if we put a cone out 10 feet, and if you pass that cone under power, you lost the race?
Yeah, and so my thought is to do a snap line or just another chalk line,
You could set
maybe
it,
5 feet or 8 feet. I don't know, and I'm wondering how far to put that chalk line past our starting line.
I'd say
if you-
10 feet
You
because you're
cross this, you're done.
going to think you need to be able to minimally, if you're going to let people do that, launch the car and have it settle enough to immediately be able to stop with the brakes. And 5 feet is not going to be enough to do that. At 5 feet, my car's still airborne.
Well,
So
I think if you're under power at that line still, if you're still on a launch,
then what? You lose your chance to race?
you're out.
Okay, yeah. Okay, well, I would say about 10 or 12 feet.
Okay.
I'd
Okay.
say if you're under power at that mark, whatever foot you decide, if you're still under full power trying to get your car straight,
But see,
You're out.
here's
You're
the
like-
here's the
like
other
about
part that
half
Gabe
the
always
feet.
thinks about it. Gabe always comes up to me and I go, oh yeah. Well, if you're going to implement something like that, then you have to police something like that. And that does add a whole nother.
It adds something that the line judge that we have to look at for sure.
Correct.
I don't see any problem with it, but whatever. My cars go straight.
Yeah. And that is, guys. For the guys that are watching right now, or the guys that are going to watch this, Gabe makes up a really good point, and that is, what is too much? You know, we all want to make sure right then and there that our car's just that last little glimpse of hope that our car's going to do what we want it to do and what we designed it and built it to do down the strip. But, you know, and I will say this, the last race day is really, really caught on, and I was watching guys go 20, 30, 40 feet. And then they turn it around and bring it back. And the other guy's standing there going, what are you doing, bro? And then he's got to heat his tires back up. And, you know, so I think putting a cap of whatever, you know, Gabe comes up with, whether he chooses 8 feet or 10 feet or 12 feet, and he wants to implement that, yes, will we be implementing that at Race Wars as well?
So there's another guy that just commented in and said, car cannot pass the start line with them. So if you want to stand...
so we'll try it this next race with, say, I'm gonna say that about 10 feet, and you know we'll see how that goes. But that's exactly my point. Is I've seen guys run basically 3/4 of a pass.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's bullshit. You're basically making a fucking test pass.
I can pull my throttle just like bam, like that.
There's plenty of room in the rest of the area, the parking area, to be able to run test launches.
Yeah.
You're right. Our surface all over, and this is going to go as far as Race Wars 2, the guys that are coming out. That's going to be all over, whether it's in the parking lot. Now, granted, we're going to have a lot of people at Race Wars, Gabe.
Right.
So we're going to...
I'm sorry, but I'm drunk.
Like Rick Jones just said,
in Vegas they would
you
let
got your
you.
test and tune before the race.
It's like 4 to 5
You could have
seconds.
your stuff figured out by then.
Hold on. Here's the thing, though, Gabe. Is we're not starting the race till 12 or 12:30, and I'm opening the track at 8 a.m. that day of the race. So these people have 4 hours or 3.5 hours to test and tune that car. I can run 10 battery packs in that time.
10 pairs of tires.
Yeah, 10 pairs of tires, right? So I don't know. I'm going to follow in your footsteps, Gabe. You know, whatever you come up with when you think about it tomorrow and you contact me in a day or two or whenever it is and say, you know what, I've come up with my mind, it's just don't cross the start line. Or it's you know, I'm going to put out a second line 10 feet. Well, whatever you're going to do, we're going to do at Race Wars. I would, for the simple fact that one of my best friends, Gabe, is going to let us graciously hold this race where he holds his races, I'm really, really self-conscious about safety, and I don't want somebody doing a launch and some, you know, guy from Nevada came and brought his 10-year-old son. He was walking out of his pit to go up and grab his chip, and he gets nailed in the ankle by somebody doing a test pass in the pit. So I don't want that kind of stuff happening at our race because it's at your work. So
okay, so what I'll do is on top of adding a line, say 5 feet beyond or 10 feet beyond, I will set up 2 other snap lines out of the area, out of the pit area, off to the side that guys can do test launches at. There's no chance they're going to hit a bystander or anything like that. I would tell people, if you want to do test launches, this is where you do them, but you're not going to do them at the line. And if we're only putting a snap line, so that if for any reason, when you're doing a burnout, if your car loses, slips out of your fingers and starts running out, you better stop by that line.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, I'm really glad you called in, Gabe. That's it's something that I noticed that I actually wanted to bring up our last race day, which was 3 months ago because of COVID. But it like everything else during this crazy time we're going through right now, it slipped my mind. So I'm really glad that you called in and you brought it up. People, like you said, people doing 3/4 passes right before their race while the other guy's standing there, that you're just doing a test hit, and that's just not how this works. That's not how any of this works.
The testing is where I'm like, this is just not okay.
Yeah.
Doing the testing, basically.
And the reason why I want to get there so early is not only to have stuff. I'll probably be there at 5 a.m. to make sure everything's set up perfect. But, the reason why I want to allow people to run there from 8 to 12 is so that the out-of-towner guys who've never raced on the surface can go, okay, by 11 o'clock or 10:30, they're like, okay, I think my car's just dialed out here. Because it's it's a good surface,
your thing for Race Wars, I've got areas, I can meet up with those guys ahead of time, and if we want to do a bunch of test runs a night or two before, I'm willing to go out there and help them out, show them where the track is, show them where the starting line is, or finish line, where they can stage, where the pits are.
Yeah.
And I'll explain all that stuff.
Okay. Well, the one thing I wanted to get out, I was like I said before when we were chatting through the live feed, I just wanted to make sure that I had you there helping with tech. So,
Dude, yeah, I'm definitely gonna be there. I'm looking at 100% on racing. I'm always there.
awesome. I love you, Gabe.
Gabe.
All right, brothers.
Yeah, have a good night and get a hold of me. Let's go shooting soon.
Oh, for sure.
Make some jerky.
Just wait. Wait, I got a new toy coming. Wait for me.
Yeah. Ricky's gonna get on this
It needs
now.
9 more days.
Yeah, 9 more days. Please.
Now they said the 10-day thing's running 15 to 20 nowadays.
Oh.
God.
So Ricky needs a month.
I'll make some jerky too.
You got it, baby.
I'll make some jerky. I'll make some jerky for us all.
That's good jerky. All right, Gaby. Have a good night. Thanks for calling in, brother.
You too, brothers.
Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
So
I
yeah,
love
you know,
Gabe.
Gabe brings in a good point. Here you go, Emma. Oh, where'd she go? Emma?
She went to the bathroom.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Well, there was, and for people who are just joining us or didn't understand what we were talking about is, you know, at our last list race, you'd have two guys walk up, and one guy does burnout and step back, and he's ready, and the other guy does a burnout and does a little bit more of a burnout, and then launches the car 40 feet, and then turns around and brings it back. You can't be doing that stuff, and we're gonna implement that at Race Wars as well. You know, I don't think that a little burnout and then a little 5-foot leap out is that bad, but there's not going to be any test hits before your race. So the way it's going to go is well, we'll get into that later about how Race Wars when it's more finalized. But yeah, if anybody's got any questions about Race Wars or soldering tips or anything else, now's the time because we're getting ready to sign off. What time is it?
Can you guys do a stream where you cover surfaces and what you should test on and what surface you should avoid? Well, don't want to test on concrete.
Yeah, you don't want to test on concrete because we primarily...
No slurry coat.
Yeah, the slurry coat. When you guys go to a parking lot that's been there forever and you drive by and you're like, whoa, dude, they redid it. And you go in, it's not redone. It has a black tar
You look at
coat
every
over
edge
it.
and it's got like little ripples of weird stuff. That's slurry coat.
Yeah, the slurry coat is really, really slick stuff.
It's like running on a freaking oil patch.
Well, not only that, to the guys that don't
I was
know...
watching Slurry Coat 101 up by Laytonville, and they were actually putting gravel in it.
So
really?
my
Yeah.
street's slurry coated.
With gravel?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that shit hooks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
I
stuff.
think that's what this was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And it's all cracked now.
That's sandpaper.
But anyway, if you guys go out to a slurry coat, a really, really, really black, smooth surface that's laid over the top of old asphalt, this is going to really aggravate you because you're not going to get your car to hook on it. And you're going to launch it. You're going to get aggravated and wonder why the car's not working. It's not the car per se. It's the surface that you're on. So you're looking for obviously a place to run your car, a place to hold races that is straight enough, that is safe to run out, where you're not going to get hit by a car or chased out of there by a security guard. Something that's wide enough for 2 lanes, and you want I'd say about 220 feet to safely do 132 feet, and then give yourself some decel time to get the car stopped safely without having to jam the brakes on and spin it out into a curve or something. And you want to look for something that is somewhat level. You know, I've raced at races where this lane was perfectly level downhill, and this one kind of went to the left. Cost me a first place win. That was, you know, down south. I drew the right lane, and always when you guys go out and practice, don't look at the lanes and go, it's really easy to go. Look at a track and watch people run and go, okay, I like the right lane or I like the left lane. And then you sit there and you practice on that, and then
pull a chip for the other lane.
Then you pull a chip from the other lane, and it actually has a slightly different tweak to the wheelie bar, something that needs to be done to the car for that lane. You got to run both lanes. I will notice that on most tracks I go run out, the lanes are not the same. Whether it's a slight right over here and an even bar over here on this lane, the lanes can be different. So always don't. I lost a race like that. The one race day I lost with the Ghost was at Cash Days down in the South Bay. We went down there. I went to the semifinals. I'd run like 6 passes. All the guys that we raced with down there were out. It was me and another guy from up here, and I got the right lane all night long, and it was perfectly straight and flat and downhill. Well, this was perfectly straight and downhill, but about mid-track there was a gutter way over here, and all of the asphalt kind of bowled to that way, and I launched and it was perfect, and it got to half track and it just went whoop to the left. And I had to pedal, and he beat me by a fender length. That was really crappy because I think I would have had that race had I had not lost it before I even started by not running in that lane. So guys, always practice in both lanes.
I got lucky in Vegas. I only ran the right lane the whole time.
Yeah, see, and it almost put you in
Every
the ass.
race was in the right lane.
That was interesting.
It almost put you in the ass.
No, it didn't. First round was the one that I.
Maybe it'd be like 3.
Go.
Other
Oh, it
things
made it.
you want to look for, you don't want cracks in the road. You want to watch out for manhole covers, electrical and irrigation, little tiny manhole covers. I guess they're not manhole, maybe they're man covers or. But anyway, any kind of anything that's implemented in the road, you want to avoid.
General neutral now.
Are they kidding?
I think they are.
Yes.
And you want to look for a surface
They
that
are. They're not manhole covers anymore.
They're-
you want to look for a surface that's porous, something that's got a little bit of bite to it. Yeah. So.
got the giggles tonight. You guys.
Wow.
They are not manhole covers anymore. They are personnel working covers.
Oh.
Good show tonight. I
Gotta
gotta
go.
go.
Go, you gotta go.
Yeah, we should go then. Excuse me. So looks like we done run out of questions. We done ran out of this episode. Again, I want to thank Phantom Racing,
Don't.
RCRI, Flash Packs. I want to Steve at R1. I want to thank Paul Peterson and everybody who supports us and watches
We want to
this.
thank you.
We want to thank you and you and you and her and those guys and that kid right there and that little ugly dog that's.
Hey,
looking
don't
over
point
there
at me. I'm just kidding.
But yeah, we'll see you next week for episode 16, and I think we might just be going over iChargers and chargers in basic or chargers in let's see, we'll have that one, and you can bring your little one. And yeah, so we'll just do a segment not just on iChargers and what they can do and what you should do with your
Whoa.
batteries and stuff and how to treat them and what the hell that is and all kinds of stuff in the next episode.
Spaceship?
I think so.
This is a fan I put on my head when I'm racing, so it keeps me cool.
Take me to your dealer. So that's it, guys. Thanks for supporting us. God bless America, man. And we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys next week.
Woo-hoo.
Later. Peace.